From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. A plea tonight from the nation's top infectious disease doctor to Montana.
Please take this seriously. This is a real problem. It's not fake news. It's not a hoax. It's real.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the rising number of cases and ICU patients are on the verge of disturbing in Montana. Tonight he talks one-on-one to Q2. First, though, while the nation awaits a coronavirus vaccine, health officials are warning Americans to brace for a tough winter and urging people to stay home for the holidays. The number of confirmed cases is already approaching 14 million after surpassing 13 million over the weekend. CBS News correspondent Chris Martinez reports from Los Angeles.
As coronavirus cases spike, CDC Director Robert Redfield is warning Americans about the winter months ahead.
I actually believe they're going to be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation.
Redfield said the pandemic death toll in the U.S. could approach 450,000 by February. He said lives would be saved if more people wear masks and take other precautions. Around the nation, daily COVID-19 cases have continued to grow, with more than 180,000 a day. That's doubled in the last month. Federal health officials are also urging Americans to avoid holiday gatherings. The White House press secretary pushed back when asked if White House celebrations would set a good example.
If you can loot businesses, burn down buildings, engage in protest, you can also go to a Christmas party.
On Wednesday, Britain gave emergency approval to Pfizer's vaccine. Trump administration officials say vaccine shipments will start to be delivered in the U.S. by mid-December.
End of February, we will have potentially immunized 100 million people.
In California, the state reported a record number of new cases and hospitalizations Tuesday, with more than 7,500 new cases in Los Angeles County alone.
We're seeing terrifying increases in numbers in LA County.
Statewide, average new cases and deaths have jumped more than 50% in just 2 weeks. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, so far, the coronavirus has taken more than 272,000 American lives, according to Johns Hopkins University. It's been 8.5 months since the first coronavirus case was confirmed in Montana. Since that time, more than 64,000 people have been diagnosed with the virus. 742 Montanans have died. Tonight, our Janelle Slade gets an assessment of the virus in Montana from the nation's leading expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
With concern about the coronavirus surge, the holiday season upon us, and today, the UK, the first country to approve the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine with distribution to start next week. We want to go straight to the top to get some perspective. So today, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the country's top infectious disease specialist, joins us here on MTN. Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for your time.
Good to be with you.
Well, let's start with developing news today and your reaction to the announcement that the UK will start distributing the vaccine next week.
Well, that's fine. They did not scrutinize the data as carefully as our own FDA is doing. They're in the process of doing that now. It is very likely that vaccine will begin to be distributed in the United States. The first batch from Pfizer likely on the 10th or 11th of December, and for Moderna around the 18th of December. So the difference is really a matter of a week and a half, not much difference at all.
Here in Montana, tighter mandates are hotly debated. In fact, many Montanans, including some Republican state legislators, recently chose not to wear their masks inside the state capitol. What do you want to say to Montanans who are making this choice?
Yeah, I don't want to accuse them or in any manner or form be pejorative to them, but I would ask them and almost plead with them to look at the data. We have 267,000 deaths and close to 14 million infections in this country. That if you have a state like Montana, which doesn't have a lot, you have Billings, which has the major medical center there. You have about 25 ICU beds in that hospital. The last time we checked, you had more ICU patients than you had IC beds for them. That's a problem.
How quickly is this actually going to turn around?
Well, the vaccine is going to be given in incremental fashion to the various people in the different priority groups. By the time you get to the normal man and woman in the street in Billings or in anywhere in Hamilton, wherever you want to be, who's a 25, 30-year-old person who's otherwise healthy, that likely will be somewhere in April where they will have open access to the trial. And then by the time you get through April, May, June, you'll have most of the people vaccinated so that you could start looking at some sort of return to a normality as we get through the summer and into the fall.
And Dr. Fauci says he plans to continue in his role at the National Institute of Health, and he expects to play a role in President-elect Biden's coronavirus task force. Back to you, Russ.
All right, thank you, Janelle. And you can hear today's full interview on our website, ktvq.com. The state reported nearly 1,100 new cases this morning, and Montana's death toll now stands at 742 after 9 more deaths today. Yellowstone County and Gallatin County saw the most new cases at 147 each, while Lewis and Clark County saw 137 new cases. Yellowstone County now has more than 4,700 active cases, while the state is approaching 65,000 total cases. During a news conference today, Governor Steve Bullock announced the state of Montana could receive its first round of COVID-19 vaccine doses in just a few weeks. MTN's John Riley reports from the state capitol.
The federal government has informed Governor Bullock initial shipments of the COVID-19 vaccine could arrive in the state as early as December 15th or 16th.
While we don't know the exact number, we expect or have been told about 9,750 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. And then we'll likely be receiving several thousand more doses in subsequent weeks.
The state's first allotment will focus on vaccinating healthcare workers, of which there are more than 40,000 in the state. The Pfizer vaccine requires 2 doses that need to be administered 3 weeks apart to be fully effective. Bullock says realistically it will still be many months before a vaccine is widely available for the general population. The state just saw its deadliest month for the virus and stresses the importance of wearing a mask and limiting contact with people outside your home where possible.
This is the reality that we must continue to live with until there's a widely distributed vaccine. That time will come, but until then, Montanans need to stay true to our neighborly spirit of looking out for others in challenging times.
At the press conference, Bullock also laid out how all of Montana's $1.25 billion in CARES Act funding will be spent by the end of the year deadline. $833 million went to more than a dozen grant programs, with business stabilization being the highest in need. $200 million went to local governments, and $417 million went to non-grant programs like COVID testing and National Guard response. Governor Bullock also once again called on Congress to pass additional CARES Act funding, noting that Montanans and Montana businesses desperately need it. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
After serving 24 years in the U.S. Senate, Wyoming Senator Mike Enzi bid his farewell today.
I rise today to give my farewell speech on the floor of the U.S. Senate. It's been an honor of a lifetime to serve the great people of Wyoming in this position for the last 24 years. I've really enjoyed being a senator. Not for the title, not for the recognition, and certainly not for the publicity. I love solving problems for folks in Wyoming and America. I like working on legislation.
Enzi began his political career nearly a half-century ago when he first ran for mayor of Gillette. He won the Senate seat in 1996 and said he was always guided by 3 principles: doing what's right, doing our best, treating others as they wish to be treated. The Republican senator capped his political career with more than 100 bills signed into law by 4 different presidents. Enzi announced he was stepping down in 2019 and will be succeeded by former Congresswoman Cynthia Lummis. One man is in the hospital tonight after a vehicle versus pedestrian accident near 17th Street West and Central Avenue. The adult victim was transported to a Billings hospital with injuries, but no word on how serious those injuries are at the moment. Billings police do ask people to avoid Central Avenue from 15th to 19th Street West as the investigation is ongoing. In Billings, construction crews are cleaning up what's left of the grandstands at Metro Park. The question for county commissioners now, what will go in their place? Q2's Mitch Leahy shows us some of the options.
Last month, crews demolished the grandstands at Metro Park in Billings, marking the end of an era for the venue operated by Yellowstone County. Now, county commissioners are narrowing down the options of what's going to replace the former structure. Billings School District 2 officials were hoping for a multi-use sports facility, but now it seems that isn't in the cards for construction. Billings School Superintendent Greg Upham broke the news to trustees at a planning committee school board meeting on Tuesday. He received a letter signed by the 3 county commissioners saying they had no desire to continue the partnership with the school district, which had previously been involved in the conversations about Metro Park construction. The commissioners instead are focusing more on agriculture and entertainment in their planning. The school board chair requested Upham schedule a face-to-face meeting with the commissioners to hear about their reasoning behind the decision.
To find out what the rationale was for the decision, what input they gathered to make that type of a decision. I think that School District 2 is an immediate revenue stream for building up the Metro Park. And I'd like to have that conversation with them as well.
New construction at Metro Park could include an enclosed arena or another grandstand, depending on the county commissioner's decision. In Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. And he tells us there are a host of other improvements that are planned for Metro Park, regardless of which master plan is chosen. To learn more, you can head to ktvq.com and search Metro Park Master Plan. As of this afternoon, MSUB is still working to determine the source of the campus water leak that has affected 5 campus buildings: McMullen Hall, the PE building, Sissel Hall, Rimrock Hall, and the Student Union building all remain without water until further notice. The showers and restrooms in those buildings are currently out of use. Porta potties remain in place, and bottled water is available in all the affected areas. As has been the case the last 2 days, employees who work at those buildings are asked to work from home tomorrow, if possible. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire, we're looking at snow totals tonight. Bob, the higher elevations had some winter weather come.
Well, you know, we had a couple of flurries in the Billings area yesterday, but it was a continuous upslope snow in the mountains, so they've actually started piling up some measurable snow. Let me show you what we had. As you take a look here, you remember Red Lodge Mountain? We talked about that yesterday. They had 7 inches of new snow. Downtown Red Lodge, about 2 inches. Near Livingston, east of Livingston, had 4.1 inches of snow. Burgess Junction reported 4.0 inches of snow. And over in Wilsall, they had 3 inches of snow there. Don't worry about it. Now take a look at this. What we are going to show you now is, here we are basically on Tuesday night, and we're expecting temperatures to be in the 50s, but the cooler air is around the corner. So watch what happens. This coming Wednesday, got cooler air moving in. Then by Thursday, that is snow moving into the Beartooth and Yellowstone Park, and eventually that stuff looks like it's going to go close to the Billings area, but then by the time Friday gets there, it just all pours down into Wyoming. Anyway, that's what the latest computer models are saying. We'll see if that holds true 10 days from now. Russ?
All right, thank you, Bob. It's been 4 weeks since the election, but Montana's leading Republicans still are not acknowledging that Democrat Joe Biden won the presidential race over President Trump. The president and some of his supporters are continuing to attempt to overturn the November 3rd election results. MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison asked our congressional delegation where they stand on those actions.
The votes for the November 3rd election have now been certified in most states, including all of the big battleground states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. And Democrat Joe Biden is the winner of the presidential race, with 306 electoral votes to President Trump's 232 electoral votes. Biden also got nearly 7 million more votes than the president in the popular vote nationwide. We asked Republican U.S. Senator Steve Daines and U.S. Representative Greg Gianforte, and now Governor-elect Gianforte, if they accept these certified results, and whether they support Trump's continuing efforts to overturn the election results. Both of them replied only with an almost identical statement: that the election is not yet settled, that litigation is ongoing, and that the Electoral College doesn't vote until December 14th. More than 30 lawsuits filed by the president's legal team challenging election results have failed. U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr said this week the Justice Department found no voter fraud on a scale that would lead to Trump winning. Trump has turned to pressuring some states where he lost to appoint electors who will vote for him. We also asked Democratic U.S. Senator John Tester what he thought of the president's efforts to overturn the election. Tester called it incredibly dangerous and said we risk appearing to the world like a banana republic where autocratic rulers attempt to undo election results they don't like.
I think what the president is doing right now really does undermine the democracy of this country. This is the greatest country in the world because we've had people that have had common sense in the White House. I don't see a lot of common sense coming out of the White House right now.
So far, only one prominent Montana Republican has publicly acknowledged Biden's victory: outgoing Secretary of State Corey Stapleton, who is Montana's chief election officer. In a tweet 4 days after the election, Stapleton complimented the president on his accomplishments, but said his time is now over. In his words to Trump, tip your hat, bite your lip, and congratulate Joe Biden. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Now, Montana is one of 39 states that has certified its election results, and President Trump defeated Biden here 57 to 41%. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. Time's ticking for Montana farmers and ranchers to get a second round of financial help. We'll have the details of how to beat the buzzer. And in sports, a true champion, our athlete of the week, now chasing an NFR title after one of the most difficult yet successful years of his career. That story coming up in just a bit.